All right, it's time to do some Niners draft talk here on the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Thanks for hanging out here with us. Coming up, mock draft roundup. We're going to see who Mel Kiper, ESPN NFL draft analyst, has going to the Niners with pick number 11 in the first round. And then on top of that, we're going to take a look at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft and who he has going to San Francisco with pick number 11. Mel Kiper of ESPN, Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, and I'll, of course, share my thoughts, and we'll give you some background and some scouting reports on these players from us here at Chat Sports. It is almost draft time for San Francisco. NFL draft coming up at the end of April. If you're excited to see what happens with the Niners, to see which players they bring in as the new wave of this Niners organization gets underway, hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We always like to inform the people, so let's start here by taking a look at the Niners list of 2025 draft picks. This is updated and new following the Jordan Mason trade last weekend to the Minnesota Vikings. Niners will first be on the clock in the first round at pick number 11. Their earliest pick since they took Trey Lance out of North Dakota State back in the 2021 NFL Draft. Back on the board, second round, pick number 43. They have a third-round selection at 75 and a third-round pick at number 100. 4 picks inside the top 100. If the Niners can hit on all 4 of these, and those 4 rookies become impact players right from the jump, the ship can get turned around very quickly for this organization. More valuable draft capital. Niners have a pick 113 overall in the 4th round, 138 later in that 4th, 2 fifth-rounders at 147 and 160, and then 3 seventh-round picks at 227, 249, 252. By the way, we will be live for every single pick, every single day, every single round of the NFL Draft, doing videos on every single Niners draft pick, so don't miss our coverage. The biggest remaining needs for the Niners going into draft time, as pretty much the heat of NFL free agency has died down a little bit, offensive line. Right tackle, center, left guard. Although the Niners seem to be very comfortable with Colton McKivitz as their right tackle and Matt Hennessy and Jake Brendel battling it out to be this team's starting center. In my opinion, it's the wrong strategy. They need to get better along the offensive line, along the defensive line, the opposite side of the trenches. Niners currently, as it stands, have a bottom 5 defensive line. They need multiple defensive tackles, multiple edge rushers. Other needs, linebacker, they lose Dre Greenlaw. Cornerback, you need another one there, although they like Trey Brown to potentially be the number 3 next to Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green, but you need depth badly. And then running back, wide receiver, tight end on the offensive side of the rock. To Mel Kiper's pick for the San Francisco 49ers, I agree with it. I love it because in my first Niners mock draft, which dropped earlier this week, I went with the same player. Missouri right tackle Armand Membou. He went up against elite competition in the SEC at right tackle, where the Niners have a need, and he performed so well against some of the top edge rushers in the SEC, some of the top prospects in this year's draft class, time and time and time again. The consistency really stood out to me when watching the tape. And then his athleticism jumped while at the NFL Combine. He earned a 9.82 relative athletic score grade. He measured in at 6'4", 332 pounds, had a vertical leap of 34 inches, a broad jump of just under 10 feet. At that size, that's tremendous. He said when I interviewed him that he was going to run a 4.8. He clocked a 4.91 at that weight of 332 pounds. The 20-yard split, the 10-yard split, important for offensive linemen because of that short area quickness. The arm length, 33.5. Some teams don't like their tackles to have arms under 34 inches, but I just think the player is special enough to the point where that doesn't matter. Some teams think that he's going to be a guard. I think he's a right tackle, and I think he's a really good one. Graded out very well with the Pro Football Focus overall grades, 90.4 overall grade, 85.4 pass blocking grade, 87.6 run blocking grade. He gave up no sacks, did have 4 penalties, but on top of that, 0 hits allowed and 9 hurries of the quarterback surrender. And I think that he would be a really good scheme fit in Kyle Shanahan's offense with his ability to get out in space with that speed and athleticism to really be a force in the ground game as well. Here's what Kiper had to say about Membou to San Francisco. I think he's the best offensive tackle in this class, by the way. In case you missed it, the Niners suddenly have a lot of needs. A snippet of the key losses over the past week: Charvarius Ward, Leonard Floyd, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Javon Hargrave, Deebo Samuel. That's a bunch of talent walking out of the door, and the Niners could really address any of those spots. But San Francisco also is working to extend quarterback Brock Purdy, and building up the offensive line in front of him has to be a priority. Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore signed elsewhere. Trent Williams, who has 2 years left on his deal, will be 37 this upcoming season. Membou is my top-ranked tackle in this class, and I see him sliding in on the right side where he started 30 games in college. He also could play guard at a high level early in his career, however, then transition to left tackle down the road. Now, the recent chatter is what I mentioned, that the Niners love Colton McKivitz. If Armand Membou is on the board, you take him, and you run that pick to the podium, especially if you are going to give Brock Purdy a contract extension worth between $45 and $60 million per season. We'll see what his market is. We'll see what that price tag is. But you need to get better along the offensive line. That helps you with the pass. It helps you in the ground game. And if Brock Purdy weren't so mobile, I think the offensive line play last year would have been even worse than what met the eye. So do you like the selection of Membou? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Join the conversation, as always, down in the comment section. Our sponsor for today's program, our friends at Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game, and the only daily fantasy sports app that you should be using. Billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings, and more than 10 million active members. It's daily fantasy sports made easy, where you pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Right now, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Some picks that we like coming up: it's NCAA tournament time here. Johnny Broome for Auburn, more than a half point. That's a special from Prize Picks. John Pulikidis, more than 21.5 points, rebounds, and dimes. And then Joe Bemisil, more than 1.5 3-pointers made. That's how easy it is. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players, choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. So we segue from Mel Kiper's mock draft to Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft and his pick for the San Francisco 49ers. He doesn't go offensive line. He doesn't even go defensive line. He goes with Texas cornerback Jahdae Barron. This is a surprising pick for me. I wouldn't like this. I think there are greater needs of larger importance than cornerback. There is no doubt that San Francisco needs to bring in corners as far as overall talent and depth. But I would go trenches with this selection. Offensive line, defensive line, I've said it for a while too. I'm kind of a fan of trading back if the board falls a certain way. I also think that Barron, taking him here at number 11, would be a reach. Now, he tested well athletically, 8.99 relative athletic score grade. He's 5'10", 184, 35-inch vertical, only a decent broad jump. And you see how the height, the weight, the vertical, the broad, all of those red and yellow. That's mediocre to bad. Now, he flew in the 40-yard dash, running a sub 4.4, so he can really run with the best of them. He has a lot of versatility in that secondary, but I just think at number 11, even if you trade back, you can find better players than Jahdae Barron out of Texas. Here's what Jeremiah said as far as his reasoning. The 49ers defense has seen a lot of departures this offseason, including at cornerback. Barron is one of the most consistent players on tape among prospects in this year's class, and he can take the ball away. He'll be able to match up against some of the talented slot receivers in the division. And Daniel Jeremiah makes a really good point, right? There are some talented slot corners inside the NFC West. There are talented slot corners across the NFL. And right now, the Niners don't really have a go-to slot cornerback. Some people think it's going to be Trey Brown, who barely played for the Seattle Seahawks after he was a fourth-round pick out of Oklahoma a few years ago. But making plays on the football, generating turnovers, that is something that Barron did at Texas at a high level. That's something that the Niners are now going to miss with Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw going elsewhere because they manufactured a ton of turnovers throughout their time with San Francisco. 67 tackles for Barron, sure-handed tackler there, 3 TFLs, so he can make some plays behind the line of scrimmage. 1 sack, you're not going to use him there a lot because you want him back in coverage. 16 pass breakups at the college level, that is phenomenal. At the NFL level, that's terrific. 5 interceptions, that's really impressive. And then 1 forced fumble. So he generated 6 total turnovers last year in 16 games. When he was targeted, gave up only 36 catches on 67 attempts for 279 yards, did not give up a touchdown in coverage a year ago for a team that made it deep in the college football playoff. And the quarterback rating when targeted, so low, 33.1. And so the theme with Barron, making plays on the football, playing with instincts, fast runner. I don't necessarily care about the weight and the height when you're playing slot corner or cornerback in general. You need to be able to run and make plays on the ball. To his credit, that's something that Barron did very well. His final 3 years in college, 3 pass breakups, no picks. 5 pass breakups, 2 picks. 7 PBUs, 1 pick, and then a great senior season, 16 PBUs, 5 interceptions. So who do you like more as far as being the pick for San Francisco between these two who we talked about on today's show? Type AM for Armand Membou, JB for Jahdae Barron.